Hi, friends. Welcome to day 9. And let's continue with our reading. The first night has ended, and now we move to the second night, a new chapter. And the second night is described as all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. So let's continue reading. The young man was good to his word. Exactly 1 week later, he returned to the philosopher's study. Truth be told, he felt the urge to rush back there only 2 or 3 days after his first visit. He had turned things over in his mind very carefully, and his doubts had turned to certainty. In short, teleology, the attributing of the purpose of a given phenomena rather than its cause, was a sophistry, and the existence of trauma was beyond question. People cannot simply forget the past, and neither can they become free from it. Today, the young man decided he thoroughly dismantle this eccentric philosopher's theories and settle matters once and for all. The name of this subchapter is Why You Dislike Yourself. Youth. So, after last time, I calmed myself down, focused, and thought things over. And yet, I got to say, I still can't agree with your theories. The philosopher says, Oh, what do you find questionable about them? The youth. Well, for instance, the other day I admitted that I dislike myself. No matter what I do, I can't find anything but shortcomings, and I can see no reason why I'd start liking myself. But of course, I still want to. You explain everything as having to do with goals. But what kind of goal would I have here? I mean, what kind of advantage could there be in my not liking myself? I can't imagine there'd be a single thing to gain from it. The philosopher. I see. You feel that you don't have any strong points, that you've got nothing but shortcomings. Whatever the facts might be, that's how you feel. In other words, your self esteem is extremely low. So the question here then are why do you the question here is then why do you feel so wretched, and why do you view yourself with such low esteem? Philosopher. I see. Youth. He says, because that's a fact. I really don't have any strong points. The philosopher. You're wrong. You notice only your shortcomings because you've resolved to not start liking yourself. In order to not like yourself, you don't see your strong points and focus only on your shortcomings. First, understand this point. Youth. I have resolved to not start liking myself? He questioned. The philosopher says that's right. To you, not liking yourself is a virtue. The youth. Why? What for? The philosopher says, perhaps this is something you should think about yourself. What sort of shortcomings do you think you have? The youth says, I'm sure you have already noticed. First of all, there's my personality. I don't have any self confidence and I'm always pessimistic about everything. And I guess I'm too self conscious because I worry about what other people see, and then I live with a constant distrust of other people. I can never act naturally. There's always something theatrical about why I say what I say and do. And it's not just my personality. There's nothing to like about my face or my body either. The philosopher. When you go about listing your shortcomings like that, what kind of mood does it put you in? The youth. Wow, that's nasty. An unpleasant mood, naturally. I'm sure that no one would want to get involved with a guy as warped as me. If there were anyone this wretched and bothersome in my vicinity, I'd keep my distance too. The philosopher, I see, well then settles it then. The youth, what do you mean? The philosopher says, it might be hard to understand from your own example, so I'll use another one. I used this study for simple counseling sessions. It must have been quite a few years ago, but there was a female student who came by. She sat right where you are sitting now, in the same chair. Well, her concern was her fear of blushing. She told me that she was always turning red whenever she was out in public and that she would do anything to rid herself of this. So I asked her, well, if you can cure it, what will you want to do then? And she said that there was a man she wanted. She secretly had feelings for him, but wasn't ready to divulge them. Once her fear of blushing was cured, she'd confess her desire to be with him. Youth. Huh, all right. It sounds like the typical thing a female student would seek counseling for. In order for her to confess her feelings for him, first she had to cure her blushing problem. Philosopher. But is that really the whole case? I have a different opinion. Why did she get this fear of blushing? And why hadn't it gotten better? Because she needed that symptom of blushing. The youth. What are you saying exactly? She was asking you to cure it, wasn't she? The philosopher. What do you think was the scariest thing to her? The thing she wanted to avoid most of all. It was that the man would reject her, of course. The fact that her unrequited love would negate everything for her, the very existence and possibility of I. This aspect is deeply present in adolescent unrequited love. But as long as she has a fear of blushing, she can go on thinking, I can't be with him because I have this fear of blushing. It could end without her ever working up the courage to confess her feelings to him. And she could convince herself that he would reject her anyway. And finally, she can live in the possibility that if only my fear of blushing had gotten better, I could have, you know, the youth. Okay, so she fabricated that fear of blushing as an excuse for her own inability to confess her feelings, or maybe as a kind of insurance for when he rejected her. Philosopher. Yes, you could put it that way. Youth. Okay, that is an interesting interpretation. But if what were really the case, wouldn't it be impossible to do anything to help her? Since she simultaneously needs that fear of blushing and is suffering because of it, there'd be no end to her troubles. Philosopher. Well, this is what I told her. Fear of blushing is easy to cure. She asked, really? I went on, but I will not cure it. She pressed me. Why? I explained, look, it's thanks to your fear of blushing that you can accept your dissatisfaction with yourself and the world around you, and with a life that isn't going well. It's thanks to your fear of blushing, and it's caused by it. She asked, how could it be? I went on, if I did cure it and nothing in your situation changed at all, what would you do? You'd probably come here again and say, give me back my fear of blushing. And that would be beyond my abilities. The youth. Hmm. Philosopher. Her story certainly isn't unusual. Students preparing for their exams think, if I pass, life will be rosy. Company workers think, if I get transferred, everything will go well. But even when those wishes are fulfilled, in many cases, nothing about their situation changes at all. Indeed, the youth said. The philosopher said, when a client shows up requesting a cure from fear of blushing, the counselor must not cure the symptoms. If they do, recovery is likely to be even more difficult. That is the Adlerian psychology way of thinking about this kind of thing. Youth. So, what specifically do you do then? Do you ask what they're worried about and then just leave it be? Philosopher. She didn't have confidence in herself. She was very afraid that things being what they were, he'd reject her even if she did confess to him. And if that happened, she'd lose even more confidence and get hurt. That's why she created the symptom of the fear of blushing. What I can do is to get the person first to accept myself now. And then, regardless of the outcome, have the courage to step forward. In Adlerian psychology, this kind of approach is called encouragement. The youth. Encouragement. The philosopher says, yes, I'll explain systematically what it consists of once our discussion has progressed a little farther. We are not at that stage yet. Youth. That works for me. In the meantime, I'll keep the word encouragement in mind. So, whatever happened to her? What happened? The philosopher. Apparently, she had the chance to join a group of friends and spend time with the man, and in the end, it was he who confessed his desire to be with her. Of course, she never dropped by this study again after that. I don't know what became of her fear of blushing, but she probably didn't need it any longer. Youth. Yes, she clearly didn't have any use for it anymore. The philosopher. That's right. Now, keeping the student's story in mind, let's think about your problems. You say that at present, you notice only your shortcomings, and it's unlikely that you'll ever come to like yourself. And then you said, I'm sure that no one would want to get involved with a guy as warped as me, didn't you? I'm sure you understand this already. Why do you dislike yourself? Why do you focus only on your shortcomings? And why have you decided to not start liking yourself? It's because you are overly afraid of being disliked by other people and getting hurt in your interpersonal relationships. The youth. What do you mean by that? The philosopher. Just like the young woman with the fear of blushing, who was afraid of being rejected by the man, you are afraid of being negated by other people. You are afraid of being treated disparagingly, being refused, and sustaining deep mental wounds. You think that instead of getting entangled in such situations, it would be better if you just didn't have relations with anyone in the first place. In other words, your goal is to not get hurt in your relationships with other people. The youth. Huh, the philosopher. Now, how can that goal be realized? The answer is easy. Just find your shortcomings, start disliking yourself, and become someone who doesn't enter into interpersonal relationships. That way, if you can shut yourself into your own shell, you won't have to interact with anyone. And you'll even have a justification ready whenever other people snub you. That it's because of your shortcomings that you get snubbed. And if things weren't this way, you too could be loved. The youth, haha. Well, you've really put me in my place now. The philosopher, don't be evasive. Being the way I am with all these shortcomings is, for you, a precious virtue. In other words, something that's to your benefit. The youth, ouch, that hurts. What a sadist. You're diabolical. Okay, yes, it's true. I'm afraid. I don't want to get hurt in interpersonal relationships. I'm terrified of being snubbed for who I am. It's hard to admit, but you are right. Philosopher, admitting is a good attitude. But don't forget, it's basically impossible to not get hurt in your relations with other people. When you enter into interpersonal relationships, it is inevitable that to a greater or lesser extent, you will get hurt and you will hurt someone too. Adler says to get rid of one's problems, all one can do is live in the universe all alone. But one can't do such a thing. Wow, that is something, eh? Something really. to think about deep. I think this is a really good this is a really good food for thought chapter, and I hope you get some time to think about it. Please comment. Please write about what you feel when you listen to this. It will be a great encouragement for me too to keep doing this. And let's meditate for some time. And please like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and see you in the next video. Lots of love. And the 5-minute meditation comes now. Close your eyes, bring yourself in a graceful posture. Bring your attention to your breath. Take your own time. And if you feel like you can rub your palms, bring them over your eyes and face. And welcome back.